Democratic strategists are worried that President Biden has put too much faith in his longtime advisor and his current election strategy, and it could be a losing one. Instead of focusing on issues like the economy, Biden's being told to focus on his message that I'm better than Trump and democracy is at risk. Haven't we seen this before? Doesn't this remind you of the Podesta brothers, those nutbags that cost Hillary the election because they thought they could just run on hate Trump? And they had so much to talk about, right?
Yeah, this is a repeat of 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm better than Donald Trump. This guy's crazy. This guy's now a convicted felon. Look how bad he is on the issues. And the voters say, we know that. We've been through that, but why are you better?
Yeah.
That's the key. And
That's
what's happening now is that Biden has this advisor that has been by his side
he's a bonehead.
since
He's an absolute
1981. He has had this guy working for him since 1981. So we're talking 43 years. Mike Donilon is his name.
Yeah.
And Donilon is telling him, no.
Fear for democracy.
Yeah.
That's his argument. Now, we've talked about this before. Before this story ever surfaced, you and I were talking about what a ridiculous argument. How does the average American embrace, we're worried about democracy, January 6th is going to change my vote, when they're worried about food, they're worried about mortgage payments, they're worried about fuel prices, they're worried about wars that are going on all around the world. They're worried about stuff that they talk about at the dinner table. They don't wake up and say, oh my God, if we elect Trump, democracy is at risk. You hear all of these talking heads on places like MSNBC or The View. I mean, you want to really watch nauseating discussion? Watch The View. Force yourself to watch The View the entire time. Sit there and force yourself to watch it. And they'll go off on these tangents. Oh, democracy's at risk. If Trump is elected, we're going to lose democracy. Those arguments sound so ridiculous, and there's only a fraction of the American public that buys it. You hear it on MSNBC and you hear it on the cables. What percentage of American public actually even watch? 3%
watches any cable news.
Any cable news. 3%. So. And that's where this comes from, right?
Right.
So Donilon, what's his name? Mike Donilon.
Donilon.
Okay, so he embraces that and say, we're going to win by scaring the hell out of everybody that democracy is at risk. It's a ridiculous argument. He's being told. James Carville went completely ballistic with this guy and said, you idiot, talk about issues that matter.
Right, and you have, according to this report here, all of the other Biden advisors are trying to warn him, stop listening to this guy. He's wrong, okay? So they know you've got to talk about, the Infrastructure Act. You've got to talk about how the economy, while not perfect, is better. You have to do these things to show your accomplishments and what you want to do in the next 4 years. People know this guy is horrible. That's not even debatable except amongst his own supporters. You've got to close the deal by telling us why you're better.
Farron, let me ask you. Okay, you're sitting at the dinner table with your wife and your children, and you're talking about what are the issues of the day. Do you begin with democracy is at risk, or do you begin with the fact that the milk they're drinking, the price has increased 20%, or that the steak or the chicken or whatever it is they're eating has increased 8%? What's the discussion? Really? Or how are we going to pay for clothes for school? That's table talk.
Yeah.
They don't go to the table and talk about something as esoteric as democracy's at risk. We're going to be, this is going to be a new Stalin homeland. They don't. The MSNBC folks do, that 2 or 3, or the CNN folks do, or maybe even the Fox do. But there's such a small percentage of the American voter. But Donilon thinks, well, that's where the key is, right?
Well, I've mentioned this a lot in videos, and the fact is, the Capitol riot, as bad as that was,
it's terrible.
The public has already forgotten about it a lot. Just like, I use this example a lot too, George W. Bush, he never had an approval rating higher than 50%. His approval rating today is in the high 70s. Why? Because people forget how bad things are in hindsight. And so if the election were held in February or March of 2021, right after the Capitol riot, you'd have nothing but Democrats elected across the board.
Yeah.
But people forgot. They've moved on. In hindsight, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And I disagree with that mindset, but they've got other issues to worry about. They say, listen, don't fill the glass of milk to the top because we got to make that last an extra 3 days.
All week, yeah.
And that is what is more important to them.
Cut your medicine in half.
Yeah.
Cut your
That's a
medicine
big
in
one.
half because you can't afford to buy medicine. That's what people talk about. They don't talk about the ramparts are being charged by crazies and democracies at risk. They don't. And they forget. How do you forget that Bush and Cheney killed at least 1 million people based on a lie, based on something they just made up, weapons of mass destruction? But if you ask people like that, they have a faint memory. Yeah, okay, well, we killed a lot of soldiers. We wounded a lot of soldiers unnecessarily. We spent gazillions of dollars, and it was all a lie.
Well, and now Liz Cheney is a hero.
Oh, yeah,
she hates Donald Trump. That's
Liz Cheney's a hero.
infuriating.
Is Cheney still? Is it a mechanical heart that he has in him now?
I don't know if he's just all cyborg at this point, but he's still out there somehow, some way.
Okay, he's out there by way of his daughter, Liz. Thanks for joining me, okay?
Thank you.
That's all the time we have, but all these segments are going to be posted right here on this channel in coming week. So make sure you're subscribed. I'm Mike Papantonio. This has been America's Lawyer, where we tell you stories every week that corporate media won't tell you because their advertisers won't let them tell the story, or their tribal politics are so Democrat or so Republican that they can't color outside the lines. We don't have that problem here. We aren't beholden to corporations, and we're sure not beholden to political parties. We'll see you next time.
That it had helped dirty money flow through its branches around the world, including at least 800...
Plaintiffs allege that the defendants provided money and medical goods to terrorist groups Hezbollah and Jaish al-Mahdi.
This is a well-organized business for these individuals that carry out these attacks. Terrorism is a business, and they run it like a business.
They knew about what was going on for a decade. They absolutely, no question about it, knew that HSBC was washing money. They had every reason to understand it was for terrorism and it was for drug cartels. Took no action whatsoever.
These banks are involved. Their accounts are connected, and they're using them to mask the transactions. The more complicated they can make the transactions, the more distance they can put between the bad guys and a seemingly legitimate purpose of these funds.
They pay $1.9 billion, which is a drop in the bucket compared to what they've made, and nobody goes to prison. These CEOs, these bankers that made this decision, they're safe at home. They know what they've done. It's resulted in the death of Americans, contractors and soldiers, not just hundreds, but thousands. And we look the other way because they don't look like criminals. The die is cast. The people that are responsible are on Wall Street.
And they don't look like criminals. It's almost a suspension of disbelief. Sometimes I'll have people call me and say, is this real? Do they really get away with this? Yeah, they do.